Are you ready?
Um,
You look
yeah, I'm pretty.
pretty ready.
Yes, pretty ready.
Got it. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here for our Thursday night art fair series of artist studio visits and interviews, sometimes artist talks. Definitely it's a conversation tonight. I'm so happy to have Mr. Rob Redding. Welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. We just, kind of slow roll here as folks come in. This weather is just so magnificent outside that it was kind of hard to pull myself from outside to get inside to do this. So I'm really thankful for the folks that are on their computers right now, ready to listen to a conversation about art and your art, Rob.
Yes, thank you so much to Artfare for doing this, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You've been a long, dear friend of mine, and I really appreciate what you've done for Art Fair and getting things started. You're one of the pillars of the group, and it is taking off.
Thank you. Yeah, we're feeling really good. There's some new things coming down the pipeline. We're, very soon to announce potentially international branches, and it's very, it's slow but surely coming and expanding our network to include even more artists. So and professional artists at that. And I'm glad you're on, and thank you for saying those sweet things. I see a work behind you.
Yes, this is City Drain behind me, and it's always behind me in most of my Zooms these days, and that's the way it's been since I have been doing my Zooms from my kitchen. So yeah, everybody always comments on it, and a lot of people. It's funny around Pratt think it's new. I was like, no, it was actually in the slideshow that I gave you to actually become a student.
Right, how soon they forget.
How soon they forget.
Right. I mean, that brings up, kind of an interesting topic, because when we first met, I mean, you've been a practicing artist for a couple decades now, and your, your vision and your practice has always come from, you got a bachelor's, you got a master's degree, but you're so multidimensional with your radio program, you're interviewing yourself, the Crystal Castle, your music, and also your visual art. And this is your time then now in Brooklyn. You're at Pratt getting another master's.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. People are like, you love school. I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. I swear to God, I don't. I don't like writing papers as much as people think I do. I don't like being at the whim of teachers and grades. I've been a teacher at schools before at
Mhm.
in college, and I don't like being. You know what? It's funny. I was telling our department chair there are some things that I have learned this time being a student. I was like, that I got that I will, if I ever go into another classroom as a professor again, I will never do my students. It will never happen. Not to say the professors at Pratt are bad. I'm just saying I would do it differently. That's all.
Right. Well, yes, exactly. I always refer to some of the best bosses I had were the worst bosses I had, because I learned how to be a supervisor, a hiring manager in relationship to what I didn't want to do, how I didn't want to treat my team members. And they still are on my shit list, those bosses. But not I
Yeah.
let it go. I let it go, but they say they get a little bit of attention, because I once had a boss with all my anecdotes. At least I don't do this. I sound like a parent.
Right, right. Like we're lucky. Thank you so much for that. So no, yeah, no, I don't love school as much, and that was the crux of the question. But I am definitely glad I'm entering my last year at Pratt in the fall, and so I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to be graduating next spring. And Pratt is a great program. Our chair is amazing. Jane South is amazing, and she has done wonders with the department, and I'm there because of her.
That's really just wonderful to hear. I had a colleague pass away recently. Well, it was within COVID year, that was connected to there, and some other folks that I've been working with over the years. And I know that Pratt is a really incredible school. And I just want to address the fact that, there's a lot of artists on Art Fair that don't yet have master's degree, yet still consider themselves a professional artist, or, and I think that it's really important to also acknowledge that there's even some folks on Artfare that we've included that don't have a degree in art at all. So, I just want to address, the fact that you can be a practicing and professional artist and still have that drive and have the commitment to, continue your practice on a daily basis and not have a degree, yet you've gone back now as, a non-traditional student. You're not like rolling in there as a 25-year-old, 22-year-old. You look like you are, Rob. Don't.
They think I'm in my 20s. We'll keep that going for now, the charade going.
But it must be a real trip to be there with predominantly, younger generation of students, as well as within COVID times. Have you been meeting, and do you have a studio on campus? Have you been on campus engaging in critiques? What's it been like doing your graduate degree there during this time?
Well, let me just say that for the first part of what you said, I absolutely agree with you. I don't think you need a master's in fine arts to do what I'm doing. I'm getting my master's in fine arts because I'm hoping that no one will ask me again about tenure and becoming a PhD, because I have no intent of doing that at this point in my life. So the MFA is a terminal for me. So that's what I'm thinking when I'm getting my master's in fine arts.
Yeah.
So all those that don't have, remember, I don't have the BFA. So I'm one of those people that came into the program with a communication degree. So it can be done if you want to do it. It's possible. And that's likely. Now to the question, you said, what's it like with COVID? What's it like with the little kiddies? Sometimes they act like grown adults. Sometimes they don't. And it's funny because one actually told me, and he really is a cute person. They told me, actually, I should say, that, Rob, you're being ageist by assuming that I'm young and I'm stupid. And I was like, you're absolutely right. That is the reverse form of ageism, assuming that you have, no experience in the world whatsoever and you have no idea what the hell you're talking about, would be presumptuous and an ageist thought. My point is, it's been fine. It's been great. Our staff is wonderful. We are meeting in person for some classes. I am doing the hybrid approach, so I'm doing a work study on campus with, guess who, Jane South, our chair, and Lisa, who is her assistant in the office, and Nat and Dina, who are all great people. And I am also doing the studio at Pfizer, which is where our MFA studios are on Flushing and Williamsburg. So I am in the studio a lot, and I am also a student right now of Michael's, and Michael Brennan who's an amazing artist, and so I see him maybe once every 2 weeks, and we meet for an hour. We talk about art. We talk about the types of artists that my work is compared to, and the type of work that I'm doing. He lets me know that I'm not crazy.
Is it, yeah, a wonderful just part of grad school. I think a lot of folks talk about the community and talk about your mentorship and helping kind of navigate your kind of putting your work in context, right? It's about getting the hard feedback. It's about building your community, and it's also that space where you're allowed to make mistakes and you're allowed to say, like, I want to do this, but how do I get there? And having that support is really important. So I'm glad that, even though I didn't call them little babies, by the way. I just, younger generation.
Some of them act like babies, though, I will say. But it's great. It's great being in person. It really is. And the people, and I was having this conversation the other day, the people that are not in person, that you can tell, like when their art goes up on the wall for a show or something like that, I won't name any names, you can tell that they're not stateside.
Yeah, that interaction is so important. I mean, I suppose when everything went down, so many of my colleagues, friends, and artists that I work with are educators, and navigating how do I teach ceramics on Zoom is always like, I'm like, what? How are you doing that? How do I teach metals on Zoom? Painting. I mean, they're all difficult because each of the mediums are so tactile, right? And of course, these conversations have been going on for the last year, and I'm just happy to hear that you're able to have a hybrid experience, like, even as a non-traditional student, that you're making headway and making those connections with your faculty, mentors, and department heads. It's incredible. Has your
Yeah.
practice, knowing what you've been doing, has your work changed much since you are now engaged in this an arts degree? Sure.
I have to laugh when you ask that question. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because I actually met with the curator, and this gives you so much access to so many different people, curators, gallery owners, blah blah blah. I mean, so many people being at Pratt, and so one of the things is that one of the curators, I won't name their name, said to me, she said, it seems like since Fisher, which is one of the ones that Artfare has up on its website, it seems like your work has changed and da 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 da. And I told that to Michael Brennan, I told that to Jane South, and they all did what I did. They just almost hit the ground laughing. And the reason why they did is because, like, one of the pieces that I've done is called Black Power Unapologetically Militant. And they're like, Pratt didn't do this to you. You got this from someplace, but you didn't get this from us. And so that's the funny thing. So lately, what I've been doing is a lot of heavy race stuff, and go figure, because of George Floyd and him crying out for his mother dying in front of all of us. I haven't seen the video, but I've seen enough to know that that's what happens in it. Yeah, it's changed because of that, and so I've been painting. I dedicated myself in the fall to painting things that related to social issues relating to race specifically. I painted, sexual stuff. I painted social issues before, but I'm really heavy-handed on race right now as a result of what's happened this past summer and what continues to happen in this country with Anthony Brown and folks like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you have a few images that you're going to share with us. So I would love to kind of cut to the chase and look at some of the work. And we've got some work on Artfare, some larger works on Artfare, and one that's behind you, as well as some other works. But I'm looking forward to kind of dissecting some of these references that you're making in relationship to your practice or your process. So if you want to share your screen, that'd be great. You're kind of you're not in your studio right now in Pfizer, you're kind of in your apartment. Is that
I'm
right?
in my apartment right now, which is where a lot of the works that I have, ironically, on Artfare are. And I have all of those kind of displayed around the house, and we can take a gander around the house. And I've got some of the lights turned on so you can see some of the work in just a moment. Then, of course, I'm going to show you much of the work that's probably at Pfizer. Some of it's here, but most of it's at Pfizer. So, okay.
Wait. Then okay, you want to share the screen first,
You
and
want
then
me you want me to share now?
sure, yeah, and then we'll walk around maybe.
Okay. All right, so let's go to share screen. All right, so you can see a black screen, right?
I see Rob
Okay.
Redding Studio and all sorts of good stuff.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay. So I do monochromatic abstractions. That's what I do. This is my information. If you want to know more about me, smearpainting.com. If you want to get me on Instagram, it's at smearpainting. Okay. So all of the works that I'm showing you and many, many others will be there as well.
Hmm.
Okay. So with that being said, we'll go into our presentation. This is Black Eye. This is one of those that was done at Pratt first semester. I was chasing this ghost for some time, and I'm happy to announce that actually I have been able to duplicate this. This is actually in 40 by 60, and so it is fairly large, but not as large as I would like for it to be. It's not gargantuan. These are not, this is not a large piece. And so I had some first semester painting professors that were like, Rob, but can you do it larger? And I did it actually this past weekend. So I'm really excited about that. This is probably one of the better pieces that I've done at Pratt, and has been well reviewed by those who have been at Pratt, and they like it a lot. It's all acrylic on canvas. This is a stretch canvas, and people don't believe me that I say it's all acrylic, and so that's what it is. It's also on the Instagram. It's also on the website.
Hmm. Yeah, they're kind of small images, was a little tough to see for our audience, yet seeing these works in person as you were in front of it in the last work. You could keep going. Oh, there you go. Yeah, the texture on these, you've talked to me in the past about the smear idea and how you kind of came up with this reductive, masking technique and this non representational work. So using those monochromatic, just black and white, you're very consistent with the acrylic paints that you're using. Or maybe you can address that a little bit, Ram.
Right. That's a great thing, because that's what Michael Brennan and I have been talking about. It's like, I'm not sure what to call this. We were calling it marbling at the time, because that's the term that he came up with. And I said, well, what about smearing? Because that's what I've been calling it. I mean, hell, everything is branded smear painting. Everything is branded from the Instagram to the website. And so, yes, that's what I utilize. I utilize smear painting, and that's what I call it. So the smearing, this work is called Escape, Black Lives Matter Pandemic Election. People say it looks like a fence. That's fine too. I understand it looks like a fence, but inside there's a lot of smearing. And so this work, this is a very small JPEG. And when people see it, it's just as large, actually it's larger than the work behind me. It is 123 by 93. So it is a large work. It is the size of a complete wall that's probably in your house, just about anywhere in your house, a standard wall. That's how large it is. And it will go from bottom to top.
Yeah, it's hard to see some of the
Yeah.
nuance with a small JPEG like that, but I can understand why folks would want to assume or finding representation in abstraction. I think our brains are just naturally kind of prone to doing those things. Yeah, go ahead and advance some of the, see some more works here.
Okay. The next work is also in black and white. This is on, as the previous work is, I should have said, it's on unstretched canvas. This is 80 by 93, and this is called Warped World. Again, this is acrylic on canvas, unstretched canvas. It is the size of a wall and a quarter size of a wall that you probably have in your house, from bottom to top, and 80 inches across. Right. And so I'll keep going.
Yeah.
This gives you an idea of how large it is, because I like to give people an idea of the perspective. This is me in front of the work. I'm sitting down. This was photographed by our very, very great photographer, Federico, who is amazing, as you can tell. He put me in front of the work. He said, I just want to show the scale. I have very long arms, just in case you're wondering. So this is a reorientation of the work. It goes the other way, but we wanted to show it in terms of how long it is. So I'm sitting in front of the work again, and this is just a different orientation of the work. Okay, as we continue. This is Black Power, Unapologetically Militant. This is 90 by 93, and it is one of those works that, this is the work that I told you that that Michael and I and Jane and I laughed about when the curator said, your work has changed since you've gotten to Pratt. It kind of blamed Pratt, and I just laughed, because they were just like, yeah, we didn't tell you to paint a Black Power fist, trust us on that.
Yeah.
So that's also acrylic on canvas. It's unstretched, and it is definitely one of the works that I did while I was at Pratt. Next. This is Black Death. This is actually 60 by 93 as well. And it's on unstretched canvas. This is actually a double-sided canvas. You'll see the other side in just a moment. I believe I have a JPEG of that. It is acrylic on canvas, smeared in my Sfumato style, and it is a hit at Pratt as well, because of the subject matter that I'm dealing with in terms of Black Lives Matter.
I wish we could see these a little bit more close up. Oh, that really helps. Thank you. I think that does help. Yeah, and this is a little more organic from your work previous, Rob. When you're doing your masking and creating all the linear kind of lines, almost illusory kind of contours and such. It's much more straight and formal, where this work is so much more organic and loose, and it feels more connected to not so much, I mean, it's still very abstract, but it feels more connected to figuration, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
So we've been talking about, Michael and I have been talking about the school that he believes this is in. He believes this is in the formal school of French painting in the area of walls, who work kind of like with this alien figuration, which is just kind of real, like human, but not, and it's figurative, but it's like, well, does that really even exist? And like, it doesn't actually. Obviously, it's not an actual human, but it is an embryo inside an egg. Just in case you're saying, I see an embryo there yet, that's what it is. And it's underground, and it's pushing up weeds underground, and so it is part figurative and it's part abstract. So by no means am I creating a new school in that way, but I am doing something in terms of with the tape and with my motto style, in doing something that I call constructive expressionism, which is something that my thesis will be on when I graduate from grad.
That's right. Yeah, you can coin this ConEx.
ConEx is what we're calling it, right?
Well,
So,
very good.
all right, so we're going to go to, yes, these give you an idea in studio
Mhm.
of, I know people love studio shots. This gives you an idea of, this is me in front of, at the end of Black Death. And also you can see some other works, like I said, off to the left, you can see Escape, part of it, right there to the left-hand side,
Yeah.
how big it is and how it goes down the wall as well. There's not a whole picture of it, obviously. But then you can see in this shot, me in front of uh, Black Power and Work World in the studio at Pfizer. So you can see how large these pieces are. These are, again, unstretched acrylic on canvas, unstretched canvas.
Hmm. Rob, talk a little to, if you would please, your scale. Why make these works so large? And uh, I mean, is it part process, or is it just, having these works are served better in a larger space? Or I guess yeah, talk a little bit about why you're choosing this scale.
Well, I had a show, if I can, and this is actually, oddly, this is a smaller work actually.
Ah.
This work actually is, um, it's 30 by 20. It's not very large at all. But the scale is something that I've worked large before. Obviously, this is not a small piece behind me. I'm gonna actually come out of this because this is the last slide. This is Target, which is a smaller work.
Mhm.
And I'm going to come out of this and I'm going to come back to you and talk. So I have worked large. It's just part of what I do. Now this was something that um, I made fun of in my first show in Chelsea at the gallery, where I had my first solo show in Chelsea. And it's funny that I called that the BBC show, the Big Black Cock Show, and had cock scratched out and had canvas there. So I said the BBC, the Big Black Canvas Show,
Mhm.
because I work in monochromatic expressionism. So you know that. So I was making fun of it in that most people think that abstract work has to be large to be relevant and to be impactful, and it has to be submersive. And so, because I didn't have really large works at the time,
Mhm.
this was created after that show. This was not in that show. Fisher was in the show, Koch was in the show, Obviously, I was playing on words, and I had themes to the pieces. Um, that's what I was going with. I had many of the smaller works blown up into prints for the show, and some of them actually, like the print of Manhattan, sold at the show. So the reason why I work large is because I understand that people believe that abstraction should be large, that for all intents and purposes, it cannot be small. It doesn't really demonstrate your ability to do small work. So I make it a point to work large. And plus, you know what? I'm 6'3.5". I'm not 6'4", but I'm 6'3.5", 160 pounds. And so I'm a big guy. Like I could do small work, but at the same time, I think it's more challenging to do large work.
It is, yeah, it's interesting that you would say that. There's some things I actually disagree with. However, I respect your opinion. Larger work for some artists is actually easier than smaller works, and especially in abstraction, using the entire canvas as a painter. Uh, you've got a lot of, you have your overall space, and then you have your detail spaces, right? And then when you crunch it down into a smaller space, a lot of artists kind of flounder in relationships to, how do I create these moments of detail within a smaller space where, there's so much that can happen. There's so many canvases in a larger piece, right? And then what do you look at it as a grid, or you look at it as, you divide it, or quadrants, or whatever the case. With a smaller work, you could still do that same thing, yet the nuance between each corner, or the composition itself, is sometimes much more challenged for the artist. And yet, as your preference to working larger, where it just maybe because your body is larger, but these movements are more grand, the lines are longer, and I think that larger work definitely has a respectability factor. And it reminds me of talking to some artists that just, they feel as if larger work will get them a bigger gallery or a museum show. Almost, it kind of validates an artist by working larger. Maybe this is a conversation for another day, but I think that smaller work still deserves space. And there have been some smaller painting shows. I remember seeing a couple of years ago a Lisa Yuskavich show of all these really super small pieces. And if you know her work, it's figurative painting, yet they're always in this kind of surreal setting, very sexualized, female forms, and as well as males. Yet these smaller paintings, that intimacy of the naked figure became compounded. It was more because you had to approach it, and it was kind of secret. So I thought that those smaller paintings really served her well, yet mostly her works are so giant. Anyway, I guess there's just kind of, schools out there to talk a little bit about that, understanding the validation in size. Size matters. It's a good thing you big cocks.
Well, yeah, what the funny thing is that I do both, and so I actually had someone an artist as well within my program ask me, Rob, why work so large? Same question, and she does large abstractions too, but I just do larger abstractions than she does. It's funny to me that she would ask the question. She's a person I respect deeply. She's a great artist, but the point is, she asked me the same question, and so she was like, you need to just like look at getting detail, like we were talking about just a moment ago, into the painting. And I actually have one of those in my room that is actually 127 by 93 by 63, that I showed her, and then she just had to kind of eat her words about the detail, because it's a very detailed painting, and it's not the full image of Warped World. It's not the full image of a Black Fist. It's not the full image of Escape, Black Lives Matter, Pandemic. It's not that full image at all. As a matter of fact, it's a very, like, you can imagine it going like, I don't know, 500 by 500, but it's one of those where you're just looking at a small slice. It's called one drop rule, and it is very detailed. And I just literally lay at night mesmerized by it. I'm saying by my own painting, because it looks like the lines, Michael, and I agree, it looks like the lines are moving in the painting because, and I'll show it to you in a moment, you'll see it in the room. But the point is that what it does is it's just, I agree with you. I think that sometimes you need to see the micro level. You need to see what's going on in a painting. And this kind of like zooms in on one part of a painting. So I think that the thing that Michael and I agree on, I think, is that I can work smaller and I can also work larger, and I can also work large with detail as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just always a new experiment, right? When you get to your canvas, do you standardly in your process, are you planning? For instance, I know you're doing a lot of masking. You lay down your first kind of smear, and then the further you're masking, and then you're laying over, and you're kind of using multiple layers in that respect. Are you conforming your works on the canvas as you go, or do you have a deliberate plan that sketch out?
That's a great question. Yeah, I have a plan that I sketch out most of the time, but sometimes I don't, and sometimes I have to change because the masking tape or the tape reminds me, whatever tape I'm using, reminds me that I can't do that, or that I have to rethink that because these are going to be dark areas versus this is not going to be a dark area, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, hold on a second. So I have to adjust the sketch in my mind. So a lot of times also what happens is I'm also taking up tape because it just doesn't work. Like a line that's intersecting wrong, or it's still not measured out right, and I have to retape something. So I'm always, because I'm drawing with tape, it really is a real time process of actually drawing on the canvas with the tape. And
Mm,
that's my love. And I just want to say just quickly, I started as a drawer, painting. Well, when I started art, I started as a drawer, and that painting came later. It was because a teacher came to me and said, "Hey, Rob, you're really good at this drawing stuff. You might want to do it, as a living." So that's, I mean, drawing is my first love.
mm-hmm. There's definitely drawing in these paintings, absolutely, even though they're abstractions, the linear qualities of some of these paintings and certainly the organic like lines that you've got in some of the paintings as well. You can see that mark making is an important part of your practice. Let's see that piece you were talking about all the little details
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
room. Mm,
Okay, great. I'm going to go and I'm going to take you there now.
mhm.
So I'm going to, hopefully I'm not upside down, am I?
You're good.
Okay, before we get there, I'm going to take you down a hallway. And you're going to see some of the other works that I have. I had some lights turned on. Let me turn them back on. Give me a second. All right. So you know this one. It's Fisher. I don't know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this was in the BBC show in Chelsea. Then here is Cock, which this is the one I took the picture in front of. It's right outside my kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
This is White Jesus Notre Dame, which is, I think, on your Instagram today.
Yeah, I used that for the promo image. I really appreciate this work. It feels a cataclysmic of sorts, just as you kind of referenced Notre Dame and its destruction. It has a powerful, almost representational imagery actually, and I think that and I always like that sun in the corner.
Right, exactly. My crazy son up here. All right, so I'm going to take you to the room, so you'll get a chance to see this painting that everybody's. I had to bring it home because I was like, I have to have it in my mind about how I got there. So please excuse the mess because I've got a few boxes everywhere, and this is Brooklyn, so you'll see what I'm talking about. But you can see it. I'm going to zoom out actually, and so you can kind of see it. This is one drop rule. So you see my TV down here, but this is it.
Hmm.
It should give you an idea. You'll see a little globe up here, but
Hmm.
this is it. This is the piece.
Hmm. That work is, I really appreciate that scale so much. It leads me to imagine the work that you're creating right now as more installation based, potentially in wallpaper.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Mm. And that's an unstretched canvas, Rob.
That is unstretched. It's acrylic on canvas.
Okay.
And I do have my foot in the picture on this as well. It's on my Instagram. I haven't posted a serious picture. I just got a serious picture of this. I just haven't posted on Instagram yet. So Frederico took a picture of this. There's actually a picture, and you could do better than looking at it in my room on a wall. But you can understand why I literally look at this at night, and it puts me into a trance, and I go to sleep. Like
Hmm.
the lines look like they're moving. If you keep watching it, they
Yeah.
look like they're moving. It's very interesting. So what I was saying is that it looks like it could be like this full circle, and you're only seeing a segment of these ripples that are coming out this way, and the sfumato is coming through the painting from the one drop rule, which is a take on racism and race in America, as in like if you have one drop of black blood, you're black.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, that
So
it's brings me to, how do I frame this question, rather statement question. Your work being that con X, as you would refer to it, or abstractions, the work themselves lend to sometimes a more decorative motif, which why I would reference like, oh, this could be an installation, almost wallpaper, and it's got a lot of energy in it, as well as this apt art feel at times. Yet you reference, some of the works, and certainly prior to the murder of George Floyd and the political um uprising that we had in June of last year, and certainly continuing into every day, the previous and now. Yet the identity politics that are wrapped within the work. I just would like to talk to you a little bit about that. When you're writing about your work, when you're talking about your work, uh, how are you coming to terms with potentially defending or justifying this kind of formalism, abstraction to refer to uh, systemic racism and those references, like finding a viewer that could potentially understand those things without you explaining to them? I'm just curious as to how you're negotiating that.
Well, that's a great question. The last piece I showed you was Target, and Michael was like, this is a small work. This is a change for you. This is definitely very powerful. I just want you to be prepared for what people are going to say. I was like, well, first of all, I'm a talk show host, so I'm used to them saying all types of things about me because they don't agree with what I'm saying. So I'm not really concerned with people agreeing with what I'm saying or saying that this is what's there. I'm not a modernist. I don't take a modernist view about my art. So it's like Jack Whitten said, when he said, art is whatever the artist says it is. When he painted a picture of Malcolm X as a square, and he said, well, this is what Malcolm X was. He was, these three strong sides, and that's the reason why I painted him this way. It's whatever Jack Whitten says it is. Then, if that's what Jack Whitten says, is whatever the artist says it is, and that's what I believe. I will shape the view because I'm a journalist, because this is my visual voice. I shape the view of what I do based on who I am as a painter and the colors I use. Like, for instance, I'm a monochromatic painter, so black is a conceptual color for me. I utilize it as a conceptual color. And so I'm unapologetic about what I bring to the canvas and what it then delivers to the viewer. Now, the viewer can say, I don't see that at all. And that's fine, that's great. But that's kind of, the thought and the thrust of it. If you want to take, black cock and you want to put it on your mantelpiece and pretend like you don't know or you can't see, and maybe you can't see a cock in it, It's fine. You can do that. I will take your money. That's fine.
Subliminal black cocks in your work. I love that. It reminds me of so many things. But one of the first things that came to mind is, I have a 13-year-old now, and she was talking about, there's a lot of subliminal ads. There's subliminal ads everywhere. There's subliminal images on all sorts of stuff, and and I was like, wow, I had that conversation when I was 13 as well, and I told her about the Camel cigarettes. I don't know if you ever heard about this. The camel on the Camel cigarettes is meant to look.
Yes, I remember Camel cigarettes.
Right. It's like, but it's meant to have this like masculine, dick forward kind of look.
Right.
Nose and all this stuff. And so we would like giggle, like, it's a camel. No, it's a penis. It's a camel.
I remember.
But I appreciate that, just going back into the serious conversation of your intention is valid, and you're the artist. And therefore, you came from where you, as someone that's come from Atlanta with a parent that was a preacher, no less. And some of your work certainly deals with being a Black man in America. And you've also made work about being a gay man in, in America, gay and Black. And I'm curious, you've kind of like focused more on the current events that are happening within our society in relationship to the reckoning, getting more people aware and fighting for equal justice, yet for justice and equal rights. But I'm wondering, are you still toying or playing with sexuality in your work?
Yeah, Fisher was probably one of the last things I did with sexuality. I think anytime we do talk about race, we are talking about sexuality. There definitely is a work that I have. It's called Middle Passage. It's the last post on Instagram that I made. So you can take a look at that on Instagram. It's also, Middle Passage hasn't made it to my website yet. So that's, it's coming. But it's there on Instagram first. And a lot of things I put on Instagram before I put them on the website. So yes, I am still making work about sex. And I've just been painting lately about race. I will probably stop painting about race when they stop killing Black people. But that's more of an unfortunate, I wouldn't even call it a joke, but I will continue to do more sexually based stuff in the future. I just haven't done much right now. And so I embrace my bisexuality. I think it's important that we have a strong representation that's unabashed in its addressing of bisexuality, because the largest contingent of people in the LGBT community are bisexual. It's the least studied part of the LGBTQ plus community. And often people forget that we're here. So I think it's very important. So thank you for that. And thank you for the question. I definitely want to focus more on that in the future.
Yeah, I apologize for not saying the correct, saying gay instead of bi. Yet I definitely will, be more careful.
It's fine. Yeah.
Sure.
It happens all the time. It's funny because I tell people all the time, bisexuality is given such a bad rap, in that people are, gay men have used it for years to say that, and gay people in general have used it for years, not just men, to say, Mom, that one day I might bring, or Dad, I might bring home somebody of the opposite sex, we might have a kid, but they have no intent of that happening. But I do actually have an attraction to both men and women. And for some people that believe I'm dated because I'm not pansexual, okay, that's fine. There's some people that would argue that, bisexual people that would argue that pansexual people just don't get the bisexuality already handles that, but it's fine.
Yeah,
a whole debate.
It's all very complicated. I think bisexual is so binary, and it's like, Well, do you like butchy girls or do you like femmy girls? So, do you like butchy?
It's funny.
The
Yeah,
explanations and the spectrum, I'm still learning truly. And I'm,
me too. I keep learning. It's funny because my daughter is supposedly, and we don't discuss this, is pansexual, and I'm just like, she hasn't told me. Her mom told me that, but she hasn't told me that. So I'm accepting that her mom knows what she's talking about. I had to make sure I had a firm definition. I think F.K. Twigs came out as as pansexual. No, what? Oh, it was Janelle Monáe. I think Janelle Monáe came out as pansexual, and I was just like, okay. And so that's when I first did the research about it, and it's like, well, I thought bisexuality handled that already. But anyway,
right. Well, you like who you like. You know what? It's all
yeah,
about the spirit.
exactly.
Um, and and getting to that, I just want to let folks know that even through this digression, feel free to throw some questions in the chat for Rob or for myself, certainly for Rob, and I'll he can read them or I can read them, and we can answer some questions from the audience.
Oh, but you're not digressing because I mean, Fisher is about sex.
Okay,
Circle Jerk,
I brought it up. I
right? I mean, Circle Jerk, which is on the Instagram and on the website, that's about sex.
mhm.
I mean, there. I've done works about sex. I just haven't done anything, lately. White Jesus is about race and sex. I mean, a gay boy can look at White Jesus and be like, "This is how I feel about the church, and that it's falling, and that my dad was wrong when he kicked me out of the house." I remember I had, a gay boy in the house once, and he looked at the Lord's Prayer and said, "You do not have a copy of the Lord's Prayer in your kitchen." I was like, "I still believe in God." I
Uh-huh.
still believe in God, but that doesn't mean that I believe everything that the Christian church is trying to tell me about God.
Mhm.
So my
Mhm.
dad's a minister. I don't know. They might have missed that part.
Right. Well, that's really challenging too. I mean, and Atlanta is Atlanta, but Atlanta's still the South, right?
Yes,
And so I
yes.
know that it's challenged to
And
be able to,
religions hurt a lot of people. So I get it when people tell me that they're not too hot on the church. I get it. It's not lost on me. I
mm,
just happen to have a very accepting father. Like my dad loves me a lot, and I don't know. Sometimes I don't understand why, because when I tell people that he's a Baptist minister, they're like, "Oh, I know how that went down." No, he's not that. Like my dad really was like, I prefer you make other decisions, but this is what you do, and it's fine. And we don't discuss it anymore. He doesn't pretend like it doesn't exist. He accepts it.
yeah, yeah,
So
that's wonderful. That's so good. And then it's nice that you have a healthy relationship and you're able to
yeah,
uh, still maintain relations. I think there's a lot of folks out there that have to find chosen families, and other folks are struggling with acceptance and themselves even, and being able to identify and acknowledge who you are and be able to, as the term goes, come out. It,
yes,
yeah, it's definitely a feat. And I know artists and students that I've worked with over the years, I've seen the changes from coming out at 18 after they leave the house to coming out at 12, 13, 14. Even, sometimes earlier, I'm like, "Mom, do you even know what sex is?" Like you're saying,
exactly.
yeah. But right. So, it is the world's changing, and there's definitely more acceptance, I think, in a lot of areas. Hopefully that continues to
And I just want to say, for all those people that are struggling, my prayers are with you. I know that it's very difficult. There are people that are struggling. I don't want to marginalize or minimize anybody's pain. I think it would have been different if I had come out when I was 18 or 17 or whatever it's by. I don't think I had the language for that when I was beneath 17. But I did know that I had same-sex attraction at least in high school. I could definitely tell you that. I would say probably middle school. I think the first boy I was attracted to was in middle school.
right, right. I know we all have our
I just didn't even know
story.
what to do with that. I didn't even know like that I should even ask him. I think he probably would have let me kiss him. But I will never know that. It's really a lost opportunity. I'm really sad about it because I didn't know the things that the kids now know at their age. They have phones in their hands that tell them everything.
I know. And the access though to certain
Yeah.
things. It's fascinating. that also there's some psychologists little papers here and there that I've been, concerned for my preteen slash now teen. And I understand that there's this generation now, the quarantines, as my daughter
Mm.
likes to call it. Certainly, this is not going to last forever. They had that year. Uh, However, there is a lot less actual physical promiscuity that are happening at a younger age, and it's more online promiscuity that's happening. So this understanding of intimacy and relationships is now being, kind of the litmus is, I don't know, pornographic, or the expectations are e-girl kind of, I don't know, anime. I don't understand all of it, and I'm trying to work through it. Yet I do see the shyness and the tenderness and the like. The first kisses was one of the facts. The first kisses now gone from like 14, 15 to like 16, 17 because of that kind of lack of understanding of social interactions between real life experiences versus digital experiences. This pre-COVID too.
Yeah, yeah. It's something else. I like that quarantines. I hadn't heard that before. That's new on me.
Yeah, my daughter kind of, I don't know, she heard it maybe somewhere else, but she was calling that herself that, and she won some sort of competition at her school about like what her generation would be called, and I was like, I think you're Gen Z.
I think that's technically it, right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Um, right. Well, I know that you're kind of going through a move right now, and so do you have to move out of your studio this summer, or do you have access to the studio since you're still enrolled for the next year at Pratt?
I do have access to the studio, and that's every Sunday I'm typically there, and I typically am doing something new. I can't wait to get into the studio this Sunday. People are like, "How do you hold it? Why don't you work every day?" I can't work every day. I know that they say artists should, but it's funny. Last week I did three very large pieces, and Michael came into the studio on Monday, and he was just like, "You did all these yesterday?" And I said, yes. He says it's very rare that anybody can strike and go 3-0 and all three of them be good. He said like all three of these are good. And so I do about three a weekend routinely, whether they're large or small. And so that satisfies me. I'll spend all day painting on one day out of the week. My day out of the week typically used to be Saturday, but now it's Sunday. Since I have an air conditioned environment, I don't have to go up to my roof and paint anymore. So yes, I'll have it all summer, and then I'll have it all the rest of next year, and then we'll have to figure something else out after that.
Right,
I'm
right.
I'm concerned about where I'm going to stick all this stuff. Actually, where is it going to go?
Well,
Hopefully not to my house. Hopefully to someone else's house.
well, hopefully it goes to a show, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it gets sold.
yes.
Who
The
knows?
point of the work.
Right. Yet making it as also, a really great point. It's really cathartic, I know, for a lot of artists. But you recently were featured, or talk a little bit about this Art in America recognition that you got recently. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, they were doing a new talent issue, and I was approached by Vivian over at Art in America. Of course, I have a background as a journalist. I used to work at Washington Times. I used to work at a few reputable newspapers called the Macon Telegraph and Prince George's Journal in Washington, D.C. The point is that she approached me, told me they were doing a new talent issue. Rob, you got to participate in this. You got to do this. This is the best thing that should happen. Antoine's doing this. Sergeant is doing this, and you should definitely do this. And I was like, well, I'm in. She told me this back at the end of February, and I said, okay, sure. And so like I had no surprise whatsoever.
Hmm.
He did an incredible job of putting it together. It's flying off stands. Art in America right now. It's the new talent issue focusing on Black people in art. They approached him about doing it in the summer, I'm understanding, and it's a really big deal because they have some of the top Black curators in the America and the world that he's cobbled together, and they have their picks as well. And so I'm in there after the Jeremy, the young slave play. Jeremy, I can't remember his last name right now. It starts with an O. Um, Jeremy O, I would just call him. And he has a play. and they're profiling him, and then there's me. After that, you'll see me on page 51.
All right.
I'm really excited. Came
Yeah.
out this month.
So it came out this month. I've only seen digital, references to it. So I really want to be able to pick up a copy and check that out. I trust you're in great company.
Yes,
Yeah. And
I'm very excited.
yeah, definitely. And hopefully that will give the impetus to get gallery representation, or get a show if not representation, yet also get some of this work on Artfare into some
Yes,
collections.
yes. So
If
speaking of shows, I should tell you real quickly. I've got Friedman Gallery coming up this July. It's supposed to be. I don't have a hard date on it yet. Naoma has approached me about it, and I said yes. I'm not sure which one she's going to pick. I sent her 5 works that she might pick, JPEGs, but she'll tell me which one she wants. And yes, we've already seen, because of the Art in America, we've already seen tons of, when I say we, I'm saying at the website, I was looking at the analytics last night, from places from America to Ireland to China, to Germany, France, the UK. We've seen tons of interest in the work, that, because they're also running an online piece as well, as a result of being in Art in America. So I couldn't be happier with where my career is going and everything that's happening with it.
Yeah, it's just kind of the beginning, huh? And did you say Friedman or Friedman?
Freeman.
Friedman, Fried.
I'm not. Am I saying it right? If I'm not saying it right, please correct.
No,
Um,
I get confused myself, Rob, because there's a Friedman, Frid, and then there's like a Friedman, Friedman.
I think it's IE, but I could be wrong.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Let
yeah.
me double check that. I think it. I think. Well, if you want to go into another question, or
No, yeah,
I.
I was going to mention that if it is Friedman, they just opened up a space in Beacon, New York, and they also have a space in Lower East Side, I believe. So that would be just incredible.
This is Fridman.
Yeah, great. Hmm.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just saw a
That's
performance.
on 169 Bowery.
Yeah,
Yes, in July. It's a group show.
fantastic. That's how you get your foot in the door. So many artists ask, how do I approach galleries, or how do I, get representation and all these things. And then the number one thing is A, show up, get yourself on the mailing list. Two, then hopefully you're recognized and you get a studio visit, so on and so forth. Art in America really helped this for you, but getting that is kind of, a very formal studio visit, and then getting into that group show. And who knows, you're a great artist, easy artist to work with, then that could just cascade into a solo show, and then future galleries in different locations internationally and otherwise. So this is all really incredible for you, Rob. I can't believe, for folks that are just joining, or maybe I haven't really said this actually yet, but Rob and I kind of met on the street.
Yes.
Which was really kind of cool, because I don't meet a lot of folks on the street, but you were running, and I was in my own gallery, and it's just really been such a pleasure watching your career grow over the last, I think it's been 4 or 5 years, and for at least 4 years, and to see you making and really progressing, and your focus is certainly commendable.
Thank you so much. And every single time I see you, you're a ball of fresh light, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you've done for the community and what you continue to do for the community. And when you asked me to be involved, I really jumped at the chance, and I haven't regretted it since. Thank you so much for what you do and who you allow us to be as artists.
Thanks, Rob. You're sweetie. I'll leave it at that. And I just, mutual appreciation for being here and participating, and for everyone that's joined in the audience. See some familiar names and not so much faces, but I'm always so grateful that folks log on here on Thursday nights from 6 to 7 with more and more openings that I can't go to, but I'm going to keep going, I think, Thursday night conversations. Again, thanks, Rob. I really hope to see you soon in person.
Yes.
Been a minute.
Yes.
And it would be really great to see you.
We got to go to Brooklyn Whiskers or something.
Yeah,
I love that place.
Brooklyn Whiskers it is. All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your Thursday evening,
Okay.
and peace out, everyone. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.